recording there? There we go. Good deal.
We'll call the meeting to order.
Okay.
We'll wait on the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting until we can see if we get a quorum. The finance report is included in your packet.
You can see there's not a lot of action this month, the last 2 months, I would say. I mean, obviously, with all this going on, we've got our new program kind of ramped up, and we received that additional funding from the council, which is nice, and we have those later in the packet for approval today. But other than that, I mean, we've seen a couple of bills from CEDA for their quarterly billing, but other than that, it's been pretty minimal. So.
Okay. I don't know if anybody's got any questions. Or
No.
Okay. And, next is our short-term business interruption loan program.
Sure. If you go to page 12, you can see a memo that Nicholas typed up, and I know this is something we had discussed certainly at the council level. The council did agree to transfer $60,000 additional funding to the loan account in order to facilitate the creation of this program. And in essence, what it is it's a program that we wanted to have available for businesses to try and keep them. We kind of call it a lights on bill. It's not intended to take the place of any of the larger programs that the state or the federal government's created, but for some folks it's a better fit to get that money a little bit quicker, just to make sure that they can pay vendors and things like that. So detailed in here, you can see that there were 2 applicants that were applying the last period of time. Gradient Hospitality Group Incorporated, that's the owner of Daniels and 504. And then you have Daisy Make Consignment, and maybe Nicholas, we were just going through the applicants for the short-term business interruption loan program. In one case, the loan review committee met and they felt that granting the entire loan request was adequate, and then in the other case, they recommended loaning $2,400 out of a $5,000 request based on their application. So if you want to continue then, Nicholas.
Yeah, so that should cover about 3 months of operating expenses for the business, and hopefully by that point, they'd be able to open in some form or fashion. I know with the recent executive order from Tim Walz, he's allowing retail businesses to do curbside, and that should give them a good amount of time to adapt their business and hopefully reopen at that point.
So also included in your package, you see their applications themselves and the UEC filings and other items that we required. I think the reasoning behind the smaller amount for Daisy May was in essence, the justification they had for us was less. I mean, they didn't show the cost up to $5,000. This is not intended to give people money that isn't justified. So what we used was we based our number for them off of their fixed costs, which are detailed on page 21, which was the $750 in rent and $38, $32 in the phone bill. We did give them a little bit of an allowance on that to kind of round off the number, but I think that was the reasoning there. With Daniels, you can see they had they have obviously much higher costs and things like that, but this will help them. It's not intended, as I said, to be a be-all and end-all or anything like that. So
It's just to get them by until they can get loans from other sources.
Right.
Keep them moving along.
That was a good decision.
Suppose we can't vote on.
No, we'll probably hold off on that until we've got our 4th.
I wasn't able to get through to any of those numbers.
Well, suffice to say, we did feel it was appropriate to bring these today to you and let you know that that's kind of where we're going with those applications. Did anybody have any questions on those?
No.
I questioned a little bit the Daniels as far as pay vendors money due. Are they talking about paying past due bills? And at $46,000 a month, is $5,000 actually going to do something, or is it just going to be throwing it in the fire?
On a phone call I had with them, it sounded like they were going to use the majority of the funding for food vendors so that they'd be able to continue operating their food truck and other expenses related to that.
Okay. Yeah, we should have that possibly on there.
doesn't describe anything
Oh,
beyond,
alright.
I
pay
just
vendors
didn't
money
know,
due.
I didn't talk to her.
Okay.
Yeah, we could certainly add that under additional notes. Why don't you write that in right now, actually?
Sure.
Just on one of these applications here, so we don't forget to add that into the finalized
Yeah,
one.
get the
You know, under additional notes, the intention was to maintain a certain level of cash flow with the vendors via there's pens right there, Nicholas. For the food truck and for day-to-day operations during this period of, COVID issues. That's always good to get some clarification.
And then as far as the 5,000, that's our max we can.
I know that's our max, that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to give it out.
No, but
You know.
we're just looking at the expenses.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at what it's for, and is it actually going to help, you know?
I bet it'll help them.
I mean, any amount's gonna help, you know, no business wants to close.
No, nobody wants to close, but sometimes, if you're in the middle of the pond sinking and you're throwing out a 3-foot rope, keep the 3-foot rope at home.
Yeah, the nice thing is we do have the security agreement, so we do have some, Nicholas worked very heavily with Tom to make sure that, the same things that the bank is using to, in essence, collateralize their loans is there. Obviously, if there's a bankruptcy or something like that, that's a risk we take. In any case, any business we give a loan to, but
Yeah,
we wanted to
we'll-
make sure there was something behind the loans itself.
We'll file these UCC statements, with the state office, so this will be, registered on the state level, so. I had a couple of people at to review those, and they think they look good, so.
Good. Any other questions anybody has on those two? Otherwise,
Nobody else has applied, huh, for anything?
Not yet. I've had some people inquire about it, but they haven't moved beyond that.
we did have good positive media coverage. We had a couple of good articles in the newspaper, we had a good TV advertisement, and, I know you've had a couple of other inquiries about it. Some of the businesses that, you could talk about it a little bit, some of the businesses that applied, I think we felt were not, good candidates, or that talked about applying.
Yeah, I had a dog groomer, a self-employed dog groomer ask about it, and
She works out of her home.
yeah, it didn't seem like there would be, that this could be used towards, she didn't really have any operating expenses outside of paying, say, her own house rent or mortgage, and that can be unrelated to the business. So I didn't feel it was prudent, but I did redirect her to other resources that she could find. She wasn't aware that the unemployment insurance had been updated to accept self-employed people, so hopefully she was able to find some, relief assistance through that program. I think we had a gun shop inquire, whether they needed the SBA, because at that point, when he had talked to me, the SBA funding had run out, so he was wondering, did you still need to apply for the SBA to be eligible for this? And I told him that, you'd have to submit something or get a letter that they're not accepting applications, and now that the SBA program's up and running, hopefully they've applied through assistance there, and if they need, assistance through the stable program, then they can come to us and.
Sure.
So with Daisy May that, said that they had applied to the SBA, did we confirm that they were
Yes.
denied?
It's not
Or not,
necessarily that they
or-
need to be denied for this program, it's just that this is a kind of short-term gap financing between when they get aid and from when they've applied and when they get aid. So I have verified with both applicants that they've applied, I've seen their application numbers and
Yeah.
everything.
The SBA seems to be almost quicker than us. At least the ones my clients have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I don't know, have you had clients that have applied to the city? Cause I've
To
only
the
seen.
city, no, just SBA.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying, like, in terms of being quicker than us, I guess for us, we felt like we're trying to look at like a 2-week window as much as possible. I know that's something that Nicholas was gonna bring up too, in terms of implementation and how to facilitate these loans going forward.
Cause that's about what the SBA is running.
Sure, yeah, when they're financed, I know they had, some issues with continuing that financing.
That's about
Yeah.
a 24-hour lab.
Sure. Did you wanna bring that up now too, or not?
Delegating the authority to
Right.
approve these loans, yeah, we'd need a full quorum to.
But you could bring it up. and
Yeah,
talk about
so
it.
we were just hoping that the EDA could delegate, the approval powers to the Stable Loan Review Committee, which is myself, Tim, and Dan, so that we can quickly process these loans and, you know, instead of waiting for the next EDA meeting, which is once a month, that we can do these hopefully within 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, I'll agree to it when, yeah.
Sure, well, I mean, it's just what Janice was bringing up about the speed, the timeliness of these is, you know, it's a little chunky for us to kinda wait a whole month to approve things, and I know that
Right.
that was certainly one of the concerns that Dan and Nicholas brought to me when we had our meeting, so, it is what it is, you know, I mean, in the long run, we can only, you know, we have this program in place, we're trying to do what we can, we have limited resources, we've added more resources, but, you know, I don't know if there's any ideas you guys have about, continuing to bring this up to the forefront, you know, we had some good coverage, you know, we want people to remember it, to know it, I don't know what else we can really do aside from, Nicholas has talked about the website and Facebook and some of that items, and continue to remind people that it exists. So I don't know if you've got other ideas about how to remind the public or businesses.
Boy, right now, social media is just the bomb, so
Yeah.
that's the way to go, I would.
Yeah, everybody's stuck at home is on Facebook a lot, or even
That's
if they're stuck
correct.
in the office, they're on Facebook a lot.
Yeah,
but-
absolutely, so yeah, no, Facebook or, yeah, our website.
And, you know, your response from the chamber, how has that gone?
I think it's gone well.
Yeah.
I definitely had a spike in, people contacting me about the program after the email was sent out by Tom, so.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know other ways to, you know, I think everybody here just wants it to be over with. It's like some of the, especially even some of the business people are like, I don't even really wanna think about it, it's like, we're just gonna keep, hopefully in a month, or in 2 weeks,
Yeah.
or whenever it's gonna be done, and then we can move on.
Right.
But I'm just, you know, the governor obviously has his own strategy, and, we're kinda waiting on him to open things up, especially when it comes to like restaurants.
Yeah.
'Cause that is a killer. You know,
Mhm.
that is, I don't know how people are making it with that, you know, especially if you're a bigger restaurant, you have fixed costs. Like
Yeah.
with a food truck, you know, you can kinda protect yourself. With a big, you know, business, you still got utility bills and got, you know, bills and things and mortgages, and
Right.
it's very
Insurance.
difficult, you know.
And if you were struggling before this hit.
Right. Yeah, well, you can just see it if you read the Star Tribune at all. I mean, every week they've got how many, you know, some of these businesses have been there for 40 years, you know, I think it was like Izzy's Ice Cream or something, like long-term business, and, you know, that's all it takes is 2 months of cash flow and they can't make it work, you know.
Right.
And some of them are having issues too, not those businesses yet, but other businesses are coming back, and then people aren't coming back.
'Cause they're too scared, yeah. I've
Some
read
are
about
scared,
that.
some are
Found
thinking.
something else.
I got along without them before now, so
Yeah.
I can get along without them now.
Yeah, some of them, and some of them are like,
Yeah,
well, I'm making
kinda
more not
change your-
working.
Right.
Until that catches up, I mean, 'cause.
It won't last forever. I mean, there's just no way they can afford to keep unemployment as high as it is right now forever, but. I don't know, if you guys have other ideas too, so this was a program that we talked about at the last EDA meeting we had a little bit, and then fleshing it out with, Nicholas, we tried to do that. It's a program I used in Blue Earth when we had a Main Street road construction. So we kinda based it off of that, you know, where we had Main Street closed for the whole summer. And so people could come to us with some of these numbers, and so we based it off of that. But, you know, if there are other ideas you've had, or you've thought about and say, hey, you know, the EDA can be doing this, you know, we want those ideas, 'cause, you know, in the long run, that's why we have a group that meets together and talks about it, because I don't know. I don't have all the answers, I wish I did, it's just, there's only so much we can do here too, you know?
Right.
And I have to watch the budget for everything else as well. Anyway, anything else you guys have heard about, you've read about, or talked about, or anything you thought of, that you'd say, hey, why don't we try and do something like that? I don't know.
One thing that I had seen, and Tim and I discussed this, were loan deferments.
Sure.
But we kind of figured it's not something that we want to offer, because right now everybody's been paying their loans on time. But if it was something that they requested, you know, that we defer some payments, we've got, a document ready to go that would, you know, we'd get them to sign it and agree to a certain deferment.
Right.
Time period. Yeah, we've decided just to keep that in our back pocket and not necessarily promote it, because right now, things seem to be all right on that aspect.
Yeah, so I guess if you ever do think of anything else, certainly email Nicholas or myself and let us
Mhm.
know what you think, and
Yeah,
if
if you see
you
any
read about
news
another city
articles.
doing something that you think is innovative or something like that, I haven't seen a lot myself from other cities, you know, that are necessarily doing a lot right now. Some of them are doing these loan deferments and things like that, but I follow the listserv from like the League of Minnesota Cities, and even in this region, you know, a lot of them, it's just kinda quiet, you know, so.
A lot of my colleagues at CETA are asking about the short-term business interruption loan program, and a lot of them are looking to implement something similar in their own communities, so it's good that we can be a leader on that.
Okay, awesome.
Alright. Well, I guess we kinda have to wait on that one now too.
Yeah.
Since we don't have a quorum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunate.
Mhm. So we'll move on to our strategic planning.
So for this one, in the memo and accompanying attachments, I've just added more information, for the EDA board to consider, with respect to strategic planning. I only got one response on the top 5 priorities, email, so I figured I might try something different. I've created this memo with, a space for you to fill in your top 5 priorities, and I can email out that as a Word document, and then the board members can get back to me within a week. I don't think it should take too long to list out, you know, priorities, whether it be Main Street, adding value-added businesses, developing the business park, those kinds of things. So, a couple of these attachments, this is the city-owned land in the southwest quadrant of the city. Tim and I have discussed the opportunity for possibly, you know, a business park here. There could be some warehousing or a larger retailer. You know, it's fairly open, but if we wanted to identify this as a business park, we could go after some grants from the state of Minnesota to develop the infrastructure for such a project. I've added the coronavirus impact planning report. It's just got some interesting demographic data. This is from a GIS service that has been doing these for communities. So a lot of CETA communities have gotten this. Nothing really stood out to me on this one. You know, there weren't really any serious, at-risk populations with this highlighted. We've got pretty good coverage in health insurance in this community, which is good. I've added the community grants bulletin as well. If anything catches your eye, I'm always reading through these. There's a survey I created, the COVID-19 Business Impact Survey. We've only had 12 responses so far, but the chamber is yet to email this out. Tom is, you know, really busy with the SBA Paycheck Protection Program right now, so he hasn't had a chance to take care of that. But it can just give you an idea of, you know, how businesses are being impacted and how they're feeling with the current situation of COVID. So you can see the stay-at-home order, you know, was one of the larger impacts, and related to that is hours of operation, because they've been severely cut down or just eliminated altogether. And with that, sales have been down for local businesses, so you can take this, read through it. If there's anything in your top 5 priorities, you could also include, you know, COVID response strategies. So we can start doing something on, like, you know, create a toolkit for businesses on how to open up, given the governor's orders. You know, what are the best practices, like curbside pickup? How do you sell online? How do you get customers to look at your inventory or put that inventory online? So Tim and I were discussing, we'd like to wrap up the strategic planning by July, the July meeting. So, once we get those top 5 priorities, at the next meeting, I can bring those to you ranked, and we can start working on a work plan to achieve those priorities. So, say if a business park was the top priority for the EDA board, what is a realistic time frame to achieve that objective? 1 year, 2 year, 5 years? Probably not the 1 year. Maybe go for the 2 years, work on a grant application, with an engineer to figure out how that business park might work. Or if we do Main Street, that's probably also not a 1 year priority, but say strategic planning for COVID relief and getting the economy back to normal, that would definitely be a 1 year project that we could achieve in that time frame.
Lots of content there, lots of things to
Yeah.
think about. I know we haven't met in a while, so obviously you can let that settle in there. But, for me, it's a matter of just really having a good idea of what the EDA wants Nicholas to put his time into. Obviously, right now, we're kind of reactionary. What I'd like to get to is where we're not necessarily reactionary, and all that depends on this whole situation. But we want to be progressing, too. We just want to have to take what comes at it. We want to go after things, and then, we can task Nicholas properly with what his priorities are, what kind of things he needs to work on. So, right now he's working on, updating websites and doing some of that work, which some of that can be done from, remote locations and things like that. But I do think, like, for us to really see growth in the community, we need to have land prepared, we need to have the infrastructure prepared to see some of that going forward. And so it makes sense to me to maybe look at that as one of the goals. But other than that, we're certainly glad to get whatever feedback we can, so.
Okay, so you were gonna send out?
Yeah, so there's a copy here, if you wanna write it out and scan it to me, but I'll also send out an email to all the board members, with a Word
Okay.
version of this.
And so if you wanna just take this and fill it out yourself right now, you can. Otherwise, Nicholas will get it out to you. We don't wanna give too long of a deadline on it, because what
Right.
ends up happening, if he says, oh yeah, bring it back next month, well, I'm gonna forget about it.
Yep.
And I'm gonna throw this away eventually, and so, I mean, even if you don't have 5, if you've got 3, throw them in there, it'll still go into the averaging.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we're not trying to rush anybody, but you know what I mean.
But we need to do something.
Yeah, and I mean, 'cause right now, like I said, we're very much reactionary, and you saw it in that survey. I mean, so much of it is based off of the governor opening things up.
Yes.
As long as the stay-at-home order's in place, there's not a lot of things that a lot of businesses can even do.
Mhm.
If they can't get if they can't get employees in, they can't get people in the shop. We're a service-based economy. That's what we are. And it's pretty hard to how many customers,
Mhm.
So.
Okay. Is there any more questions for that? No. Excuse me, we'll move on to the coordinator's report.
Okay, so we discussed the short-term business interruption loan. Like Tim said, we've had some good press coverage over that. I've included, one of the articles from the Dodge County Independent on the next page. Continue to promote this program, as long as businesses are being adversely affected, and I can reach out to those that have reached out to me and, update them, or ask where they are, if they're still interested, and
Sure.
and coach them through that. Updating the COVID-19 resource page, some people have told me that it's been helpful to look through it, and I've gotten calls from businesses asking, what do you think the best program for me is? And I can't make that decision for them, but I can keep them informed to the best of my abilities. If you're a 1 to 2 employee business, the Paycheck Protection Program might not be very effective, because you're only going to get so much based off your payroll. So, Business Facade Improvement Grant, so we approved the program at our March EDA meeting. It's on the website. We were planning on visiting businesses, and then I think that week the stay-at-home order was.
We were able to get in February before the order went in place and visit a
Mhm.
number of Main Street businesses. I was hoping to hit like the south side and do some other visits, but unfortunately, a lot of that's been put on hold, but we will follow up this summer on that, since we
Yeah,
can.
so I'll create, some Facebook posts, to get this program out there so that people are aware, and keep the application on the website. EDA strategic plan, we've discussed, we submitted the local trail connections grant. I'm very hopeful about this one. We did make it more competitive based on, some of the feedback from the trail grants coordinator with the Department of Transportation, I believe. So that'll connect some trails between the aquatic center and the regional trail system, and I think it'll be a great addition to the community. So hopefully we'll hear around June or July whether we were approved for that. So I'll keep you updated. EDA webpage, I'm gonna add some more resources. Right now it's been a lot of COVID-19 focused resources, but we'll start adding some other content for businesses. I've been approved for Small Business Development Center training, so if any businesses come to me and they say, I'm interested in small business development, I can refer them to the Rochester office, and they will allow me to consult on them, and so I think that I get experience through that, and I think it'll just be a benefit for the EDA as well. And then the COVID impact survey is ongoing. The preliminary responses have been in the packet for you to review. So that's it for the coordinator's report, unless you have any questions.
Next on our, is other business, the EDA board seat memo.
Yeah, so, Mayor McKern, is putting on hold the nomination of Matt Nelson for now, pending further discussion between himself and Matt Nelson. I don't think they've been able to meet yet. We just got an email from Chris right before the meeting saying that, he would like to keep the seat open for now, so I don't think he wants to, request new applications or anything, so we'll give him time to meet with
Yeah, I
Matt.
think he wanted to sit down with Matt before making that appointment, so, and if you have questions of it, you can certainly check with him, because I don't really know all the backstory and everything, but that was what he indicated. It would be nice to have that filled, obviously, because it makes it easier for us to get a quorum. But, whether we can do that at this time or not, it's really in his court, so.
And it's been a little difficult for people to get together to talk, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure, not speaking for him because I don't know, but I'm sure he'd like to sit down one-on-one instead of via phone or internet.
Yeah, it's always easier to communicate properly if you're a one-on-one.
Yeah, so, well, we'll wait on his actions on that for now, and we'll bring it back to the next month's meeting and see where we're at, see where he's at, and then we'll know as a board which way to go.
Yeah, and he might have been able to meet with Matt between now and our next meeting, so.
Yeah, I certainly hope so, because if we aren't, we need to open that up again,
Yeah.
so.
So we'll give them until then,
Yeah.
and hopefully things will be easier for people to get together.
Sure.
So, okay, so that'll obviously be on our June EDA board seat. Hopefully our strategic planning will add that.
Anything else anybody has?
Do we have a list of committees that the EDA has?
There's a finance committee.
Yeah, I don't know that I've seen a specific subcommittee list.
There's just there are two subcommittees, the downtown lots and then
Oh.
the finance committee.
That's right, I forgot about that one, my apologies.
Why don't you work on getting us a list of those and type it
And
up?
who's on it?
Sure.
That'd be good, just for
And then
next time.
we've got the
I was
stable
on
loan
the
review committee.
But somehow or other I got dropped, so I wasn't exactly sure what happened.
Oh,
On the last committee?
Loan
Loan.
before.
Well, during next month, why don't you go through and check the minutes and make sure we have everything updated, and get us a list, that'll be good, Nicholas. Thanks.
make
'Cause
sure
that's
we
good
get it all
information.
together right.
Yeah.
That's good for me
I
to know
agree.
too, so.
I thought, oh, well, they had a loan committee meeting and I didn't know about it.
Sure.
So then I went online to see if I could find it. I thought, well, I don't see any committees.
Well, it'd be a subcommittee of the EDA, it wouldn't be a city committee, it'd be something you guys
There's
would.
no listing of any committee, sub or otherwise, under the EDA. That's what I was looking for.
Sure, well, and that's one of the reasons
Yeah.
I know Nicholas is working on updating our webpage, because
Right.
it definitely can be fleshed out some more there with more information, so. And you guys should certainly all have those, I don't know if you guys appointed that last year, when you appointed all your committees, but why don't you get that for us, that would be good.
Okay.
Thanks.
I don't even remember appointing any committees.
I know we appointed a
I
lot
don't know how many
committee.
you were, but.
I remember
Well, the
that.
lot committee, yeah.
Then the financial one was kind of,
And then,
I don't think it was officially appointed.
I don't think it was
Just
appointed, it was
talked
just
about it,
volunteered.
And then this came up, so.
When we had the loan, we had another loan committee meeting
Yeah.
prior.
Who was it,
we'll have to
Mike?
check in that and make sure,
All right, very good.
and bring that back.
Yeah.
So, what do we do for,
Well, we can talk about that afterwards, Dan. I think we can work that out, and if worst case scenario, we can get approval at the council next week.
okay, I just don't want the business to just sit there and wait.
No, I don't think we wanna do that either,
Right.
so.
No. I
Yeah.
feel,
I think we can even issue a check pending a council approval next week.
okay.
I think that would be the best way to proceed. It's regrettable that we didn't have those other folks here today, so.
It'd be nice to not have to wait if I was, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have any idea as to the deadline for our project on Main Street?
The downtown,
Oh, your,
Facade
yeah,
improvement?
you've got I think a year from approval, and we approved it. I can double check quickly before you leave.
Yeah.
I think it was approved in like October.
Yeah,
Or
that's kind of what I
September.
was thinking, so, yeah.
So you definitely have the summer.
Okay, good, 'cause she's gonna start with.
hopefully the weather.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
Dan Gadian checked in about his project on the landscaping for his parking lot.
Yeah.
And I said, you've got the go-ahead, you've got plenty of time,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
Okay.
If there's anything else for the June meeting, feel free to send Nicholas an email, if there's
Mhm.
something you wanna add that we didn't think of today,
Yeah.
'cause sometimes we forget. Other than that, I'll take a motion to adjourn,
Motion to adjourn.
unless you have any more
I'll
discussion.
second it.
Okay.
Can we actually vote on it? Did we?
Sure, I think
Well,
we
we
stand
can-
adjourned, that'll be
Yeah.
okay.
I think we
You call the
can.
steward, he can call us to adjourn, that's fair, right?
I was just giving you guys the option to adjourn before I called it.
I didn't think we had a meeting.
Well, it's an official EDA meeting, they're just, we couldn't vote on
We
them.
can't vote.
Yeah,
So
but it's
we'll
still
hold
an
stuff over.
informational meeting, which gets us ready, you know.